Have you ever heard of a leader who, by the age of 30, had created one of the largest empires of the ancient world? A man who never lost a battle. Today, we re-dive into the story of one of history's most brilliant military commanders, Alexander the Great. How did a young king from the small kingdom of Macedon manage to conquer the mighty Persian Empire, an adversary that vastly outnumbered his own forces? The answer lies in a revolutionary approach to warfare, built on speed, audacity, and sheer, unpredictable genius. Let's set the stage. It's 334 BC. Alexander, just 20 years old, crosses the Hellespont into Asia with an army of around 40,000 men. Awaiting him is the Persian Empire, a colossal power stretching from Egypt to India, with access to a seemingly endless supply of soldiers. On paper, Alexander's invasion looked like a suicide mission. But Alexander wasn't playing by the old rules. He was about to rewrite the book on military strategy. His first major test came at the Granicus River. The Persian commanders had chosen a strong defensive position on the opposite bank. Conventional wisdom said to wait, to cross the next morning. But Alexander saw an opportunity. He knew that hesitation would be seen as weakness. In a move that stunned his own generals, he ordered an immediate, audacious cavalry charge straight across the river and up the steep, muddy banks. He personally led the charge, a gleaming helmet making him an easy target. It was reckless, it was bold, and it worked. The Persians, caught off guard by this insane frontal assault, panicked, their lines broke, and the Macedonians won a decisive victory. This battle set the tone for the entire campaign. Alexander would always choose the unexpected, moving faster than his enemies could think. A year later, at the Battle of Issus, Alexander faced the Persian king Darius III himself. Darius had a massive army, perhaps 2 or 3 times the size of Alexander's. He positioned his forces to block Alexander's path, trapping the Macedonians with their backs to the sea. It looked like a checkmate, but Alexander had a unique ability to read the battlefield like a map of opportunities. He noticed a weakness on the Persian left flank, while his own left wing desperately held back the Persian onslaught. Alexander massed his elite companion cavalry on the right. In a classic hammer and anvil tactic, his infantry, the phalanx, would act as the solid anvil, holding the Persian center. His cavalry would be the hammer. He didn't just charge forward. He led his cavalry in a sharp, diagonal advance, creating a gap in the Persian line. Then, he wheeled his squadrons and smashed directly into the flank of the Persian center, aiming straight for Darius. The sight of Alexander and his cavalry crashing towards him was too much for the great king. Darius fled the battlefield, and his entire army, leaderless and demoralized, collapsed. Speed and a decisive strike at the head of the enemy had once again turned a numerical disadvantage into a stunning victory. But Alexander's masterpiece was yet to come, the Battle of Gaugamela. This was the ultimate showdown. Darius, having learned from his previous defeats, chose a wide, flat plain for the battle, perfect for his scythed chariots and superior numbers of cavalry. He had prepared the ground, leveled it to prevent any surprises. His army was immense, with some estimates putting it at over 250,000 soldiers. He was ready for Alexander's typical flank charge, but Alexander was never typical. As the battle began, Alexander did something bizarre. He didn't charge straight ahead. Instead, he advanced his right wing diagonally, moving further and further to the right, almost as if he were trying to march off the edge of the battlefield. The Persians, confused, mirrored his movement, stretching their own line to prevent being outflanked. This was exactly what Alexander wanted. By stretching the Persian line, he created tiny, temporary gaps between their units. Darius, growing impatient, launched his chariots. But Alexander was prepared. He had his light infantry open their ranks, creating channels for the chariots to pass through harmlessly, where they were then picked off from the sides. As the Persian left wing stretched thinner and thinner to keep up with Alexander's strange sideways advance, the crucial gap appeared in their center left. It was the moment he had been waiting for. Alexander immediately wheeled his companion cavalry, forming them into a massive wedge, and charged like a thunderbolt straight through the gap, once again making a beeline for Darius. The shock of this attack, appearing as if from nowhere, was devastating. For the second time, Darius fled for his life, and for the second time, his massive army disintegrated. Gaugamela is considered one of the most brilliant tactical victories in history. Alexander defeated an army that may have outnumbered him 5-1 by using movement, deception, and a perfectly timed, decisive blow. It wasn't just about battles, though. Alexander's speed extended to his entire campaign. He would march his army at incredible speeds, covering vast distances in record time. His soldiers would arrive at cities and fortresses long before the defenders expected them, often leading to a swift surrender without a fight. He besieged the unconquerably island fortress of Tyre by building a massive causeway out into the sea, a feat of engineering and sheer willpower that took months, but ultimately succeeded. His mind was always moving, always looking for the unconventional solution. This relentless pace wasn't just a military strategy. It was a psychological weapon. Enemies were constantly kept off balance, unable to predict his next move. His reputation preceded him. News of his rapid advances and impossible victories would spread, causing panic and weakening the resolve of his opponents before he even arrived. So, how did he do it? It was a combination of factors. He inherited a superb, professional army from his father, Philip II, with the formidable Sarissa-wielding phalanx at its core. He had loyal and highly competent generals. But the X-factor was Alexander himself. His personal bravery, always fighting at the front, inspired incredible loyalty in his men. His strategic vision allowed him to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles. And his obsession with speed, his refusal to ever be predictable, was the key that unlocked an empire. He understood that in war, momentum is everything. By moving faster, striking harder, and thinking bolder than any of his rivals, Alexander the Great didn't just defeat larger armies. He made them irrelevant. His legacy proves that, sometimes, the best way to overcome impossible odds is to simply refuse to play by the established rules. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into military history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.